The Radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Tuesday, February 11th. We're here to catch up on the news, what is happening in the world, fill you in, and talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. John's already got us started with two $50 questions, so we can jump into that once we cover the news. You too can shape what happens after I cover the news by asking a question. Super Chat is available. All right, so stuff we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about, I'm going to geek out a little bit on you as a finance guy. We're going to talk about the OpenAI, Elon Musk bidding to take over OpenAI, basically a hostile takeover of OpenAI, a nonprofit. Kind of interesting. Okay. Why is he doing this? We'll talk about that. It's fun. We'll talk about tariffs. Not fun, but what can we do? We're going to be talking a lot about tariffs over the next few months, years, decades. I don't know. Certainly next few months and years, we're going to talk a lot about tariffs. We'll talk about Gaza, the latest from Gaza, and the latest threats. And the latest kind of Hamas, manipulations, if you will. And we'll talk about deportations, some of the challenges involved in all the deportations. And finally, we'll talk about cancel culture. In a sense, the right-wing response to cancel culture. And we'll talk about that and it's how it relates to Doge stuff. All right. Remind again, Super Chat is open. You can support the show on with a sticker any way you want. So come on over, jump in. Let's see. Oh, I did want to mention my first Stossel video of the new videos from my trip to New York a few weeks ago. Dropped today, so you can find it on Stossel's channel on YouTube. It's about selfishness. It is the first video. Please share it, like it, do whatever it is you do. Comment on it, all the stuff you do on YouTube. Share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter, share it everywhere. Let's get the numbers up so he has an incentive to invite me back. There will be more videos dropping from Stossel in the weeks to come. And finally, the entire interview, I think, will drop. It's kind of a one-on-one, hour-long interview, maybe even longer than an hour. That'll drop. When will that drop? Probably in March sometime. So, yeah, let's get this exposure. One of the things you could do as you share this is suggest that people subscribe to the Yaron Brook Show on YouTube. So use this as an opportunity to bring in new subscribers. I think we're 3 subscribers short right now of 39,000. If you're not a subscriber and you're watching right now, maybe you came over because of Stossel, then what happened? Then please subscribe. Oh, I know what happened. Okay, we'll go there. That fixed it. Please consider that. And move forward on that. Share, subscribe, and use it to encourage people to come subscribe to my channel. And maybe during the show today, we'll reach 39,000. So please encourage people to subscribe to the show. And again, if you're not a subscriber and are listening right now, please subscribe to the show. What I'm really eager to is to get to the 40,000. So then we can start saying, okay, we're heading towards 50, which is then just an excuse to say, okay, 100,000, here we come. So Yeah, let's keep pushing. All right, let me just check something. I want to see what the latest number is. Yeah, we're too short, 2 subscribers short of 39,000. So we can do it now. Somebody subscribe. Just press the subscribe button. If you're not a subscriber already, if you are, it doesn't help. It really doesn't. So I appreciate the effort. All right, let's jump in with this OpenAI stuff, and I have to give credit here to Matt Levin, who has a column today in Bloomberg. Matt is probably the most interesting writer on financial issues out there today. Always interesting. And he wrote up a whole thing about Musk's bid for OpenAI, which I thought was quite interesting, and a real interesting spin on what is going on, and I think a true spin on what is going on. And what Matt gives the example of, when Elon Musk bought Twitter in the spring of 2022. He basically went to Twitter and said, I'm offering $44 billion to buy the company. And whether he thought they'd accept it or not, or would go through or not, whether he regretted it or not, doesn't matter. Basically Twitter, the CEO of Twitter at the time, took this to the board, and they hired bankers, and they went out and they thought, could we get a higher bid for this? Is there anybody conceivably who would pay us more than $44 billion? If we didn't sell to Elon Musk, could we expect to reach a $44 billion valuation in the future, given the business model, given the trends, given everything? And then what is our fiduciary duty? What is our responsibility here? And they basically came to the conclusion, the board of directors came to the conclusion that no, nobody's going to offer more than $44 billion. And no, they could not conceive of a future where there was a high likelihood that they would reach $44 billion anytime soon. And basically, as the CEO, Parag Agrawal, stated at the time, the board's job was, quote, to act in the interest of our shareholders, look for value for them in the long term. And clearly, Musk offered the greatest value long term for Twitter, and they sold. And now you could argue, I've always argued, yes, this is the responsibility of managers, unless there's something bizarre, weird, or strange going on. Ultimately, the responsibility of the board of directors is to manage the company on behalf of shareholders and to maximize their long-term value. Now, a lot of discussion about stakeholder capitalism, and you shouldn't just consider shareholders. And a lot of people come up with, a lot of founders, for example, don't sell their companies usually because they believe they can create more value, but sometimes because they have a certain vision, they want to execute on that vision, they don't want the company sold, and they can kind of justify it, although they can be sued by shareholders if they don't try to maximize the value for shareholders. But sometimes they have wiggle room. But with their publicly traded company, it's pretty clear. Certainly a board of directors can say, we're here to maximize shareholder wealth. This is a maximize shareholder wealth decision. Offer, we're taking it. There's no question. And that's, again, what Twitter did. Now you've got OpenAI. Now, OpenAI is a nonprofit organization whose fiduciary duty, according to its own charter, is to somehow maximize, the social benefits, societal benefits of AI. And a nonprofit organization, and basically Elon Musk has come to this nonprofit and said, I will buy from you your product, OpenAI, for $97.4 billion, and you can, in a sense, take this $97.4 billion, right? You can take this $97.4 billion And you can use it for for nonprofit initiatives to make the world a better place, to benefit society in some way. But you have to give us OpenAI. Now, what is the fiduciary duty and how does a board decide such a thing? Well, it's just not clear. And indeed, I don't know of any other example, ever, maybe. I don't know of any example ever. That doesn't mean there wasn't one. But I don't know of any. And I have to say that Matt Levin, who's pretty educated in these things, doesn't know of any example of a nonprofit having a hostile takeover. Now, that's probably because most nonprofits don't have a business that they can sell. They don't have OpenAI, which is worth a lot of money. Maybe it's worth $97.4 billion. Well, it's worth more than that, but that's the stake the nonprofit has in it. So, basically what Elon Musk is offering is to buy the nonprofit's control over OpenAI. Now we have to unpack this a little bit to understand exactly what is going on here. Okay, so here's kind of the weirdness of the situation. OpenAI has created a for-profit subsidiary. So it's a nonprofit that controls a for-profit subsidiary where OpenAI, where the AI platform, the software sits. So they've created a for-profit subsidiary, and that for-profit subsidiary has investors, which is bizarre. We talked about this a while back when there was a whole scandal of the board of AI trying to fire Sam Altman and all of that. We talked about the weirdness and complexity of the structure. Like Microsoft is a big investor in the for-profit subsidiary, and they have some quasi-equity profit shares in the business, but it's not clear what it all means. It's very vague and legally mushy, murky. And you've got Microsoft, a big investor, some of the big venture capital funds investors, but OpenAI controls it. It basically has a controlling stake in this. OpenAI is also in the process of raising money for the for-profit subsidiary, $40 billion, primarily from SoftBank, Japanese SoftBank. Although, who knows? Trump might say, no. Japanese companies can't buy American companies. I don't know. Who knows? All right. Now, here's the problem. What OpenAI would like to do is spin the for-profit business out. It would like to privatize the for-profit business. It would like to make it a fully for-profit enterprise with no control of the non-for-profit. But legally, it cannot do that. It cannot just give it away to private investors. That's called private annulment. It's called, the purpose of the nonprofit is to benefit society, and now they're benefiting a few investors. So they're not allowed to do that. So what they can do is they can sell, in a sense, they can sell a portion of their stake, and they can take shares in the new for-profit entity. And the idea here is that OpenAI, the nonprofit, would own 25% of OpenAI, the business. So it would give up control. It would become a wholly for-profit business run by a board of directors. Ultimately, it could go public, and the nonprofit would own 25% of the shares of it. And so now it's going to get a lump sum in order for it to give up control. What is control worth? And in order to give up control, you know, what they're thinking right now is that they're going to get $40 billion. Right? So what would happen, given the scenario, is that OpenAI would go to the negotiating table. The new for-profit entity would go to the negotiating table. The investors, existing investors like Microsoft, would go to the negotiating table. They would all negotiate for, a stake that OpenAI has. Let's say it's 25%, and money that would be given to the nonprofit by the new investors. The current valuation before a new investment is made is the current valuation is $260 billion. $260 billion. That would give the nonprofit stake, the 25%, a valuation of $65 billion. So that's what OpenAI thought they were doing. They were going to this negotiation. They were going to get 25% of the company. It would be worth $65 billion over time. They could sell that stake, use that money to do whatever philanthropic stuff they wanted to do. But then Musk comes in. Musk comes in and he says, wait a minute. I think you're giving this away. I think it's wrong for all these parties to be negotiating about the stake of OpenAI. Ultimately, the public, quote, the public, is the owner of the nonprofit, right? It's the beneficiary of the nonprofit is the public, society. And you're selling society the public short. We think a controlling stake in OpenAI is worth a lot more than $65 billion. We think the controlling stake in OpenAI, in the for-profit entity, is worth $97.375 billion. And indeed, if you can find somebody who bids higher than that, we will probably, or at least consider, matching that bid. C.S. Sam Altman, who's the founder of OpenAI and the CEO of OpenAI, thought that he had arranged this cozy deal and that everything was going to be sorted out and that the nonprofit was going to be relegated to 25%. He would have this company. He would continue to control it. He would continue to run it, and there would be this, and all the numbers are figured out, and everybody's happy. And wait a minute. Now the board of directors has a real conflict. It has to weigh two alternatives. One alternative is it gets a stake in OpenAI worth $65 billion. The other alternative is it gets cash of $97.375 billion. Let's call it $100 billion, just for fun. What maximizes the well-being of society, whatever which alternative? So is the board of directors of the nonprofit obliged to take Musk's higher offer? Is it obliged to follow through with the deal that it already has or it's about to negotiate? Why? By what standard does it measure these things? Now, part of probably what's going to happen is that whereas you might have expected OpenAI stake in the new entity to only be $65 billion, it basically what Musk is basically doing is forcing a renegotiation or up the negotiation, where now it's likely that at the end of whatever the negotiation is, the nonprofit will own a stake greater than what Musk is offering in order to legally be clear, right? the nonprofit could then say, look, we got $100 billion from the for-profit business. We have a stake worth $100 billion. We don't need to accept Elon Musk's. Now, this is fascinating because there's a sense in which what Trump is doing here is he probably doesn't want to buy OpenAI. He has his own AI company that is a competitor. What Musk is probably doing here is not trying to buy OpenAI, but raise the price. Is, just be a thorn in the side of Sam Altman and OpenAI's board, which he is, by the way, suing because he doesn't like the whole arrangement anyway. He was one of the founders of OpenAI with Sam Altman. He left the board and has fought with Sam Altman, and you can still see they continue to fight online on Twitter all the time. This is basically the most money ever used to troll another human being in history. He is just harassing Sam Altman and the board right? Here's what the Wall Street Journal wrote. Right? The higher the valuation of the nonprofit, the bigger its stake would likely be in the for-profit OpenAI following a conversion. At the same time, OpenAI is negotiating how much equity Microsoft, its biggest investor, should get in the for-profit company, along with other backers and employees. It is also seeking to raise up to $40 billion of new capital. Investors in that round will likely expect equity when OpenAI becomes a for-profit as well. Satisfying all these parties has been already complicated. If Musk's gambit increases the equity awarded to the nonprofit, it will be even more difficult. So, Musk here, Musk is dabbling in everything in the world right now. But on the side, kind of just for fun, he is doing whatever he can to piss off Sam Altman. As Sam Altman said in an interview with Bloomberg, quote, I think he's probably just trying to slow us down. He obviously is a competitor. He says, I wish he would just compete by building a better product. But I think there's been a lot of tactics, many lawsuits, all sorts of other crazy stuff. Now this. And then he goes on to say, this is the level of kind of fighting between Altman and Musk. Altman continues to say about Musk, probably his whole life is from a position of insecurity. I feel for the guy. I think Musk is an unhappy person. At the end of the day, Altman said, OpenAI is not for sale. The OpenAI mission is not for sale. But you gotta believe that the nonprofit's obligation, the board, it has to be to maximize the value given that it's trying to benefit humanity. And the benefit of humanity, they can do more if they have more money. So how do they weigh the different considerations? The deal they have to cut with the other investors at OpenAI for profit, the money that Musk is offering them, everything else that's on the table. It's a fascinating, really fascinating issue. And of course, I'm not even counting the question, or not even considering the question, does Musk even have the money? That I'm sure he could raise the money, he could sell enough stock and come up with $97 billion. But a bank's going to lend him money for this? I mean, do a leverage buyout of a nonprofit? That's never happened before. Does he have enough money committed, enough equity committed, other investors? this is one of the weirdest takeovers in all of history. And it's going to be super interesting and fun to see what happens. But I really do think that this time, Musk is just trolling. He's just harassing Sam Altman and the OpenAI board. And it's crazy. Entertaining, I have to say, like everything these days, entertaining and crazy. And crazy. So I expect OpenAI will reject the offer. It'll be interesting on what basis they reject the offer. I do expect, though, that this will force them to increase the valuation, the value of the stake that they get in the for profit. So I do think that this is going to create a lot of complexity in the negotiating for the spin-off of the for-profit arm of OpenAI. Anyway, hopefully that all made sense to you guys. I never know, once I dig into these finance stuff, if you guys are actually following or not. I assume you are, because I look at the chat, and the chat's all over the place. So, but I hope you are, and I hope you found that interesting. I think it's fascinating, and I'm looking forward to following this and keeping track of this and seeing what happens. And I will fill you in as I learn more about the travails of OpenAI and the troll, Elon Musk. All right. Let's see. Do I have a special effects? I should have a special effects button. Let's see if I have a special effects button. I don't know. Does this? Let's see if this works. I don't know. I don't know if that's the right special effect. That's like lightning. I want like a clapping, cheering special effect. What is that one? Let's see what this one is. No, that's not the right one. Anyway, I don't have the right special effect. No, that's no good. All right, that ain't good either. Anyway, none of these are the right special effects. Clap, clap, clap. I need a clapping special effects, and I don't see one. But we hit 39,000 subscribers, so you guys can clap. We hit 39,000 subscribers. Thank you to the 2 people who added while I was talking. I appreciate that. Keep it going. And please don't unsubscribe, because then we'll drop below, and then we have to start all over again, and I waste to all my efforts at finding a cool clapping thing. So 39,000, 40,000 is in my aim. We're going for 40,000. I don't know how long that'll take. It could take 3 months. That would be huge, or it could take the rest of the year. I think we can do it by the end of the year. We should be able to do it by the end of the year. But it would be amazing if we could do it by the summer. Amazing by the summer. So this is where you guys can help. Use the John Stossel video, which people are likely to watch, to try to get people who like that video, to subscribe to the Yaron Brook Show. Use the Stossel video by sharing it. And by commenting on it to try to get people over to this channel and subscribers. Action Jackson has just taken on this assignment of 3 months. So this is February. We got February, March, April. So let's say, how about this? By my birthday. My birthday is May 23rd. I will actually be somewhere in Europe, probably in the UK on May 23rd. But by May 23rd, that's our date. So a little bit over 3 months, we reach 40,000. 40,000. Yes, 40,000. All right. Let's go back to our program. May 23rd, 40,000. You got that, Action Jackson? All right, everybody's on board? Keep subscribing is my point. Keep subscribing. I know some of you are coming in from the Stossel Show. Join us. One thing you guys could also do right now, if you have a Twitter account, just share the show right now on Twitter. And even better, share the show right now on Twitter as a comment to the Starso video. That way, people will come. Anyway, all right. Action Jackson is working on trying to get your help to help him get me to the goal. All right. Tariffs. I thought they were just a negotiating tool. You told me. You promised it was just a negotiating tool, and he got what he got from what he wanted from Mexico, and he got what he wanted from Canada, and he didn't get anything from China, so those tariffs, 10% are in place. But it's just a negotiating tool. He doesn't really mean it. He's not that ignorant. And here we are. 25% tariffs on all aluminum and steel imports to the United States with no exemptions for any country. In other words, these tariffs are placed on China. China exports almost no steel to the United States. I think it's zero. But Japan does. Canada does. Mexico does. Brazil does. The European Union does. So basically, this is a tariff on our allies. It's a tariff on friendshoring, which was the whole theme. It is, 25%. So this is a continuation of his 2018 tariffs. We imposed 25% on steel and 10% on aluminum, but he exempted Canada, Mexico, and some of other American trading partners, and we'll get to the consequence of that in a minute. This time, no exemptions. Everybody, 25%. I guess you could still use this to negotiate. He said he might carve out Australia because Australia, we actually have a trade surplus with Australia. And again, he is so economically ignorant that he believes that the trade deficits matter, and that a surplus is good and a deficit is bad. Now, Edward, who seems to be as equally ignorant as Trump is about these things, says, oh, these are America First tariffs. So let's consider that. Is it America First tariffs? So in 2018, when Trump imposed 25% tariffs on steel and 10% on aluminum, what were the America First consequences? What happened to America? Well, remember, this is to save jobs. So 2018 tariffs resulted in 1,000 jobs gained. Oh, that's good. That's pretty America First. And 75,000 jobs lost. I'm going to say that again. 1,000 jobs gained and 75,000 jobs lost. Lost. In other words, the tariffs last time, which were smaller than this time, resulted in a net loss of 74,000 jobs. That is America Last strategy. Trump is an America Last president. America Last president. Edward, God, you really should give up on trying to make economic arguments, Edward. You're not suited. The U.S. dollar went up. U.S. dollar went up more under Biden than under Trump. And the fact that the U.S. dollar goes up does what? It makes exporting goods out of the United States very difficult, because it makes it impossible for other countries to afford American goods. And indeed, the trade deficits under Trump went up, not down, up. Partially because the dollar got more expensive. It went up under Biden, partially because the dollar got more expensive. So what is it about having a strong dollar that is so good if you care about deficits? It actually makes export of agriculture very difficult. Soybean farmers, corn farmers struggled. It makes it very difficult to export, farm equipment like what Caterpillar does, anything that the United States exports becomes more expensive when the dollar goes up. So why is this a good thing? I mean, it's better than the dollar going down, I guess. Now, why was $75,000 jobs lost? Why? Yeah, but you don't, Edward says it helps imports, but you don't want to help imports. The whole point is you want to reduce imports. The whole point of tariffs. See, this is where they want to have their cake and eat it too. The whole point of tariffs is to reduce imports, to balance the trade deficit. And if the dollar goes up and you import more, how is that good? For what? It's just a stupid strategy. It's about time you just accepted that tariffs don't make any sense. Indeed, if the dollar goes up in value, which means steel values go down, then steel prices don't go up. But indeed, they did go up under Trump. That's why 74,000 jobs were lost. 74,000. Now, they weren't lost in the steel industry. The steel industry did fine. Record profits. Because they jacked up prices. They didn't have to pay the tariff. American Steel jacked up prices. They did fine. Where did the jobs get lost? The jobs were lost in the steel using industries. And there are many, 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 many more jobs in steel using industries than in steel manufacturing industries. So while 1,000 jobs were probably created in the steel industry, 75,000 jobs were lost in the steel using industries. Now you have more consistent tariffs on more countries at a higher rate, and this is steel and aluminum, not just steel. And what you're doing is destroying jobs. President Trump is proud, anxious, eager, enthusiastic to destroy American jobs because that's what he's doing. American jobs will go, and by the way, immediately, right? Later, the same day that Trump announced the steel and aluminum tariffs, Nucor, a U.S. steel manufacturer, announced that they are raising their prices on rebar, on a steel product used in construction. And why did they do this? Because they can, because they don't face any competition anymore. Because the cheaper rebar coming in from Mexico, coming in from Canada, coming in from Brazil maybe, is not competing with them anymore because the prices went up 25%. So what tariffs do is they immediately raise prices on American consumers. And American consumers could be, and mostly are, American producers who need these products in order to produce. So construction companies in the United States are already, as of today, paying a higher price for rebar because of the tariffs. It's pretty stunning how somebody can advocate for policy that is clearly, unequivocally, unquestionably destructive to the U.S. economy. And yet, MAGA and those affiliated with MAGA can still cheer and support them. It's not about negotiating. This is not about hurting our enemies. This is just economic malfeasance. This is just economic ignorance. Note that already today, the European Union has said that they are considering a package of retaliatory tariffs, which will hurt Europeans, but will also hurt Americans in those businesses that export to Europe. And Trump will probably respond to the retaliatory tariffs with tariffs. And Trump has also announced that not only will there be 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum, but he is now going to look at every country in the world, how much tariffs they place on American goods, and he's going to match them. So he is going to have reciprocal tariffs. He's going to make sure that Americans pay as much taxes on imports as other countries' people pay taxes on their imports. So other countries have stupid economic policy that penalizes their own people. And America now, in the name of America First, making America great again, we're going to match the economic ignorance and the economic stupidity, if you will, of other countries. That is our new trade policy. Again, the only rational trade policy is zero tariffs, unilaterally. I don't care what other countries do. If other countries want to penalize their citizens by taxing themselves, that is their problem, not mine. If other countries produce stuff really, really cheaply, and that means my consumers and my producers can buy it cheaply from them, why is the government? This is nutty to me that there can be people who think they advocate for capitalism and take this stand. How is it the government's business to stop me from buying whatever I want from a Canadian at whatever price we agree upon? Why does the U.S. government think that they could step in the middle and tax that transaction? Edward now is a fan of the WTO. I mean, God, the inconsistencies are unbelievable. Who cares about the World Trade Organization? You don't need the World Trade Organization to have free trade. All you need is lower tariffs to zero and show the world how that benefits you. And then maybe other countries will emulate you. And then you can scrap the WTO. It's useless. Anyway, Trump is completely ignoring WTO. And what are they going to do about it? There's no enforcement mechanism. Trade. I have to say this every few weeks, months, whatever. Trade is fundamentally between individuals, companies. I buy stuff from a Mexican. I buy stuff from Walmart. Walmart buys it from a Mexican company. That's the transaction. Why is the government in between here? What's the government got to do with this? Why is the government telling me I shouldn't transact with Mexicans? Now, I get it if I'm transacting with the enemy. We're not talking about the enemy. We're talking about friendly countries. Is there any chance we'll ever live in a country with zero tariffs? Yeah, you could move to Singapore and you get that immediately. Hong Kong, you get that immediately. Zero tariffs. It's what made those countries rich to a large extent. I don't know what the tariffs are in Dubai, for example. My guess is probably zero. So you could do it today. What are the chances that America will be a country with zero tariffs? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, at some point, maybe we'll elect a sane president, somebody who knows economics, basic economics, simple economics. But it looks like not only are we heading towards a world in which we won't live in a zero tariff economy in the U.S., but we're moving towards a world where tariffs are going to be higher and higher and higher. The government is going to get more and more and more involved in your trading with other people. The government is basically going to tax more and more of the transaction you do if you dare to do it with people from out of the country. We're living in a country today which is moving away from liberty, away from freedom. We're living in a country that's moving in the direction of more statism. The state will decide who you employ, where they live, where they come from, what you buy, where it comes from, how it got here. That's the disappearance of liberty in America, disappearance of freedom in America. Some have said Milei for U.S. president. the U.S. will never vote for Milei because the people in America don't believe in it. Look how many people who you would have thought would be free marketers, you would have thought would who have always claimed to be pro-capitalist, even people in this chat who support statism when it comes to trade, completely. Again, if Mexico wants to tax its citizens for importing stuff from America, that's shame on Mexico. But why would you penalize your own citizens in order to, quote, get back at them? The best way to get back at them is for your own citizens to become super rich by not having to pay tariffs, super rich by actually engaging in trade free of taxes, and then watch other countries try to emulate you, rather than play this game of I'll shoot myself in the foot if you promise to shoot yourself in the knee, I'll shoot myself in the hip, and then ultimately we'll both commit suicide in the end. Trade wars only result in disaster. The examples in history are numerous. Tariffs have never resulted in net gains. Tariffs are literally lose-lose. Now, it's true that other people might lose more than you lose, but it's still lose-lose. Why would you want to lose? Isn't the whole point, in a sense, the point of life in a society is win-win? And win-win is the nature of trade, free of barriers, free of taxes, free of intervention, free of statism. Win-win. Trade with a Mexican. They gain, you gain. Nobody loses. Nobody's lost. Deny that trade, you lost and the Mexican lost. Now, maybe the Mexican lost more than you, but why is that interesting? Why is that interesting? Win for yourself, let them win for themselves. It's not win over somebody, it's win for you, and they win for them. I can't think of a more beautiful, more system that is fundamentally based on love than a win-win trade. It's respect and love of humanity, of productive human beings who are producing values that I want to buy or that they want to buy for me. It's beautiful. Win-win relationships are beautiful relationships. You should try to have a win-win relationship in every single aspect of your life. And if you don't, you suffer. Lose-lose is like the worst. All right. Gaza. All right. Let's talk about Gaza. So we know we're in a ceasefire. The ceasefire has some parameters. Hamas is supposed to release hostages every Saturday, and Israel releases then, hundreds of prisoners in exchange, supposedly. As part of the deal, Israel retreated from much of Gaza. This week, Israel retreated from the Netzarim corridor, which is the corridor that they occupied, that split the Gaza into north and south. Israel completely withdrew from that, which completely allows the Gazans now to go north and south freely. And so Israel's basically given up control. What we have seen, clearly, what we've seen is that Hamas is still in control of Gaza. They still flex their muscles. They're still there. Right? So this is kind of the context. Within that context, Trump, of course, has said, you've probably seen this, that he wants Gaza. That Gaza is going to come under U.S. control, in a sense, U.S. ownership. That the Gazans, the people who live in Gaza, are going to be kicked out. They're going to be moved to Jordan or Egypt or Somalia or Morocco, somewhere. And that the United States is going to develop Gaza into a tourist attraction, beachfront resort, after all its residents are emptied. The Arab countries have all said, no, we don't want the Palestinians. This is wrong. You can't do that. This is horrible. How dare you? Ethnic cleansing, whatever. So far, not a single Arab country has agreed to accept any Palestinians into its territory. We're talking about 2 million people. Indeed, Donald Trump right now, as we speak, is meeting with Jordan's King Abdullah II. He is the grandson of the original King Abdullah, at the White House. And he will try to twist the guy's arm to accept some Palestinians. And, what are they gonna? They're gonna accept some token number, maybe, if they accept any. Remember, Jordan actually engaged in warfare to kick out its Palestinian population in 1970. It was called Black September. There was a terrorist organization named Black September after September 1970, where Jordan basically went to war against the Palestinians that lived there, kicked them out, and they all went to Lebanon, where it took them about 6 months before they started the Lebanese Civil War. So Jordan is not going to, after kicking out all those, Palestinians, accept large numbers of Palestinians. They'll do a token amount. Everybody will do a token amount. But we're talking about 2 million people. 2 million people. It ain't happening. But Trump is insisting this is his plan. Anyway, a complication on all of this happened last night, when Hamas announced that Israel has been violating the ceasefire terms, not clear in what way, and they will not be releasing any hostages this coming Saturday. Israel has basically put its entire military on alert, and it is supposedly getting ready to reinvade the Gaza Strip because the ceasefire, because Hamas is retreating from the ceasefire agreement. Trump then, this morning, I guess, said that if every single one of the hostages, 72, I think, are not released by Saturday afternoon, there will be hell to pay in Gaza. So Trump is threatening Gaza with, hell to pay. If all the hostages are not released, that's not part of the agreement, but all of them are released. So we've got here a whole configuration of stuff, right? Trump is egging on, is jabbing at the Palestinians. You're all going to leave here anyway. We're going to kick you out. You're all going to go somewhere else. We're going to settle you in Somalia or something. If you don't release all the hostages tomorrow, by Saturday this week, we're going to, I don't know what all hell will be unleashed at you. Israel, in the meantime, doesn't know exactly what's going on. They would love the Palestinians to be resettled somewhere, but I think they're realistic about the probability that actually happens. And they are concerned because there's still 72 hostages. Half of them probably, at least half of them dead, by the way. So we're talking about bodies. So 30-something alive and 30-something dead, probably, something in that range. And Israel's setting up its military to go in. Hamas figures, think about the strategic loss for Israel, right? They evacuated the troops. They went out of the strategic corridor that split. They had evacuated the north. Most of the north citizens had moved to the south. Now many of them are back. Any retaking of territory within Gaza is going to be much harder, much more complicated, much more difficult, given that they withdrew. And yet that's what they're prepping to do now. All because Trump twisted their arm to accept a ceasefire deal. Now Trump is saying, oh, hell will let loose. Does that mean America's going to bomb Gaza? Really? Is that going to happen? Or is the hell going to be unleashed by Israel? And how much hell will anybody tolerate? There was also this question of, if Trump evacuates all the people from Gaza, then will they come back after it's rebuilt? And again, today, Trump said no. There's no right of return to Gaza. They will not be invited back. Gaza will become a part of America. It will become like, I guess, Puerto Rico. It'll become a territory of the United States in Gaza. It's complete fantasy land, complete BS. And you don't have to evacuate the people in order to rebuild. They didn't evacuate people from Berlin when they rebuilt Berlin. They didn't evacuate people from Tokyo when they rebuilt Tokyo. It's easy if you wanted to rebuild it. But the real question is, why would you rebuild it? I mean, if the Gazans are going to stay there, keep them in their hovels. Don't allow them to rebuild. Unless they're somehow pacified, and they're not. And if they're going to leave, then I'm not sure there's a real profit motive in rebuilding Gaza. What's the profit motive? Is it really that great of a real estate? Better than Ashdod or Ashkelon, just to the north? Better than some of the places in the Sinai, just to the south? Oh, come on, Buzz. You're really being... It's not hard to rebuild. Right now, for most of the war, the Gazan population mostly lived in the south. While they lived in the south, you could rebuild the north. And then you could evacuate the population from the south to the north and rebuild the south. It's not hard to do. It's easy. But why rebuild it is the real question. Who should rebuild it? And under what terms should it be rebuilt? First, the Palestinians need to be defeated. They need to be crushed. They need to acknowledge defeat. They haven't been. They haven't been. And we'll see. I'll bet anything you want that 72 hostages will not be released by Saturday. And then I am super curious what Donald Trump means by all hell will be unleashed. I expect it to mean very little. But it's going to be interesting what you guys think. I mean, again, Israel could, what Israel should do is on Saturday, when the hostages are not released, they should turn off the water, because Palestinians have running water right now, all delivered to them from Israel. They have food coming in on trucks from Israel. They should turn those off, shut them down. And then they should cut off, this will really crush the Palestinians, they should cut off their internet service. No more uploading of videos. And turn off their cell service. Can't call out to anybody. And then, I don't know, how many weeks do you think it'll take before they come groveling before the Israelis to ask for peaceful resolution? Starve them of food, water, internet, electricity, cell phone coverage, and see what happens. But yeah, that will be unleashing hell on them. But I don't think anybody is about to do that. So the next few days are going to be super interesting. It's going to be super interesting to see if Hamas caves to Trump's threats. It'll be even more interesting to see if they don't cave, what Trump's threats are actually worth. I mean, I know what they're worth. Something approaching zero. But, you know, I would say, yeah, but the rest of the world would discover that. But the reality is that nobody learns, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, let's take another one of Trump's promises and big projects, and that is the deportations. Deportations. One of Trump's biggest promises when he was before he was elected during the campaign was that when he got into office, there would be massive deportations. They would round up illegal immigrants, criminals or not, and deport them out of the country. We're talking about hundreds of thousands, millions ultimately, up to anywhere between 10 to 20 million. Every single illegal immigrant would be out of the country. And it's not quite working out that way for him. It's clearly underway, deportations underway. They're clearly going into businesses and going to locations where they know particularly criminals are. They're arresting them and they're putting them in deportation centers, and they are flying some of them to their countries of origin. But the reality is that the numbers so far are pretty meager. About 11,000 migrants have been arrested under the new administration. ICE was publishing numbers until about a week ago. Those numbers peaked at about 1,179 on January 26th. But starting January 27th, they stopped publishing daily numbers, partially because the numbers were not being received well in the White House. They continue to raid, and they continue to have cameras with them, so they make the nightly news. But the reality is that at 1,200 deportations a day or arrests a day, this is lower than what Biden was deporting, about 50,000, about 12,000 a week in November 2024, and much, much, much lower than what Barack Obama was deporting, which was 81,000 a month on average. That was in his first year in office, right? First year in office, Obama deported just under 1 million people, 973,937. I bet you didn't know that. So about 81,000 a month. So a lot less. Trump is deporting a lot less than Obama. And it's tough. ICE doesn't have the people. It doesn't have the agents. It's relatively easy when they're stopped at the border and where the Border Patrol detains the migrants and just turns them over to ICE. ICE books them, and then it's relatively easy to send them over the border and send them back. It's relatively easy for ICE to go into jails and prisons and arrest illegal immigrants there. But there's only so many illegal immigrants in jails and prisons, partially because an overwhelming majority are not criminals, and they're not in jails. If they've ever been arrested or in jail, then the fingerprints and their whereabouts are probably known, and then ICE can go and arrest them. And again, that's a limited pool. But then the challenge is, if they're not criminal records, they're going to be challenged in court, and they're going to have to detain them in the meantime somewhere. ICE does not have enough detention facilities. They don't have enough beds to actually detain these people. They're going to need a massive investment of money in order to do this. And right now they have about 41,500 beds, which means that they actually had to release about 461 illegal immigrants back into the population because they couldn't put them anywhere. There's nothing they could do with them. Now, they've opened up the facility in Guantanamo Bay, but Guantanamo Bay has so far the astounding number of 15 illegal immigrants housed there. Now, I just want to give you a sense of what it means to put people in Guantanamo Bay. You know, illegal immigrants. This is the real problem in this country. All those illegal immigrants. Right now, Guantanamo has 15 prisoners. The price tag for housing the 15 prisoners is $663 million, which is what it costs to maintain Guantanamo. About $44 million per prisoner each year. Now, if we add more prisoners, more people, right, then that price will go down per prisoner. But it would still be the most expensive place on planet Earth to detain, or at least in America, to detain people. When the U.S. housed 45,000 Haitians and Cuban migrants at the base in the mid-1990s under Bill Clinton, it cost the federal government $1 million per day, so $2 million in today's dollars, in operating expenses, and another $100 million, $200 million adjusted for inflation, to retrofit the base. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Every dollar that DOGE is cutting from USAID is going to be spent on housing and deporting illegal immigrants. And I'm not even talking about the economic cost, the damage that is done by taking these people out of the workforce. Now, if you put them in a maximum security facility in the United States, it would only cost $95,000 a year. Instead, we're talking about we're talking about hundreds of thousands per prisoner. Now, but they promised to do this. ICE is trying. But the reality is that they need billions and billions and billions more budget in order to do it. So, Congress just passed and Trump signed the Laken-Riley Act, which, allows ICE to detain illegal immigrants, I think accused of criminal activity, which would increase, they think, the migrant detentions by about 60,000, just this act, 60,000 a year. ICE estimates that that gain of 60,000 would require an additional $26.9 billion in federal funding per year. So again, everything Musk is cutting right now, the Trump administration is going to spend on arresting and deporting illegal immigrants. By the way, the legislation, like the Riley Act, did not provide any new funding for ICE. So where's this money going to come from? It has to be placed in the budget next year. That budget is troubled because they're trying to cut funding. They can't cut funding. It's just a frigging disaster. It's gotten so bizarre that Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary, requested from the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bassett, to deputize IRS agents as immigration agents in order to allow them to arrest illegal immigrants. We're going to see people from the Pentagon, the FBI, the IRS, any government agency that has law enforcement capabilities are now going to be deployed to harass, arrest, house, and deport illegal immigrants who are mostly, the criminals should go. Criminals should either be in jail or should be in a plane back to where they came from. I'm all for arresting criminals, generally. I believe in the rule of law. But the rest of them, hardworking, productive members of American society, we are going to spend tens, if not hundreds, of billions of dollars to get rid of them. Get rid of them. That makes so much sense. Makes so much sense. Now, one of the problems is that there are only 900 immigration judges employed by the federal government. 900. Those 900 immigration judges face a backlog of more than 3.7 million cases. That means that each judge employed by the federal government to do immigration work currently has a backlog of 4,000 cases each. 4,000 cases each judge. How long is it going to take them to get through those? Well, if they do 10 a day, that's going to take more than a year. And there's no way they can do 10 a year, and this number continues to grow. So you'd have to hire hundreds of more immigration judges, more billions of dollars spent on this instead of, I don't know, spent on reducing the debt, lowering our taxes. No, I respect the law. I want the law changed. I want the law changed so that those people who entered the country, I speed all the time. The U.S. government could start a campaign to round up and fine and arrest illegal drivers, i.e. people who speed. And we could invest a lot of money in setting up speed traps all over the United States, like 10 times more than we have today, to catch all those illegal drivers. And, we committed crimes. We sped. God, during Prohibition, Americans, to their credit, didn't stop drinking. Everybody who drank during Prohibition was committing a crime. Does that mean they were all anarchists? Does that mean we should have rounded up all the drinkers and put them in jail? So somebody crossed the border and came here to work and is feeding his family and producing value. Okay, fine them, give them a slap on the wrist. Fine. Make them stand at the end of the line to get citizenship or to get a legal work permit or whatever you want to call it. Fine. But send them to jail? They haven't violated anybody's rights. Crossing a border does not violate anybody's rights. These are victimless crimes. We, as objectivists, should be against victimless crimes. We should be for eliminating laws that make criminals out of people where there's no victim. And yet, here we are. Oh no, we have to round them all up at the cost of hundreds of billions of dollars in order to make a point about we are rule of law. Well, change the law. It wasn't like Ronald Reagan was an anarchist by giving illegal immigrants amnesty, which he did in the 1980s. All right. Trump is furious. He's frustrated. This is not going well. The numbers are not there. He promised. He's not living up to the promise. So we'll see. We'll see how this all evolves. The more authoritarian Trump becomes, and I think that's the trend and that's the tendency, the more emboldened and authoritarian the people under Trump become, and again, I think that's the trend and the tendency, the more they'll just ignore the law, they'll ignore the judges, they'll start doing things that are outside of the law. We already saw that with the executive order that classifies illegal immigration as an invasion, which is clearly a violation of the rule of law and a violation of every single principle by which we define invasion. The order also directed agencies to begin preparing to enforce Aliens Enemies Act, a 1798 law that, again, involved invasion, enemies, war, and he wants to use the Alien Enemies Act against immigrants. Disgusting and despicable. This will be challenged in courts. He'll probably lose in courts, but then will he care? And this is the, I keep mentioning this because this is going to be super interesting. We are going to face constitutional crisis after constitutional crisis, as in some cases the courts rule what Trump is doing is unconstitutional, illegal in some cases. Will Trump listen to them? Will he care? Or will he, like Andrew Jackson, ignore them? And if he ignores them, unlike with Andrew Jackson, we're on a clear path towards greater and greater and greater, and ultimately all suffocating authoritarianism. All right, deportation. All right, let's talk about cancel culture. This is interesting. So last week, you probably all heard about this. A guy named Marco Ellis was a Doge staffer, resigned from Doge after the Wall Street Journal revealed that he's 25 years old, that he'd made a series of explicitly racist comments under a pseudonym on Twitter. He said things like, I'd rather die than marry somebody outside of my ethnicity. He said, normalize Indian hate. Indians from India, Indian hate. Maybe this is why, what's his name? What was his name? Vivek left Doge. If you have racists like this at Doge, why would Vivek stay? Normalize Indian hate, he said. He also said, he wrote, I was racist before it was cool. So he self-identified as a racist. He called on the United States to implement, quote, eugenic immigration policy. So this is one of the people working for Musk in Doge. And he resigned, given his outing by the Wall Street Journal. Well, this really upset Elon Musk, J.D. Vance, and the MAGA world. This was cancel culture. You say some really horrible, stupid things in a tweet, and you're forced to resign? That's what the left does. We are anti the left, so we will do exactly the opposite. Elon Musk ran a poll on Twitter asking if he should rehire Ellis. The online masses voted yes, I think by 78%. And then J.D. Vance tweeted that he supports Ellis' return. We're not like the left. We don't cancel people for their tweets. And Elon has rehired him. So cancel culture is dead. And the solution, the alternative to cancel culture, is to be tolerant of all views, even views that are abhorrent. And maybe it might turn out that they're not abhorrent to J.D. Vance and Elon Musk, but we assume that they are. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Now, here's the question. Should private employers consider the abhorrent, or public employers for that matter, abhorrent views of their personnel? Absolutely. Let me be very clear. I have always been for cancel culture. Not cancel culture as the left has implemented it, where people say pretty lame things that are meaningless and they get fired. Not cancel culture in the sense of dig up something the kid said when he was 16 and hold him responsible for it. Not cancel culture when somebody is being crucified for is not really that offensive. But look, would I employ for anything, even in my hedge fund, would I employ a communist? No. I don't care how good of a trader you are. I don't care how good you are at math. I don't care what your experience is. I don't want to have a communist around the office. I don't want to have to tolerate your nonsense. Would I employ a racist? Absolutely not. I don't want to be associated with your abhorrent views. I don't want to hear them. I want to have to look at you knowing that you're a racist. If one of my employees, even if they were a great employee, went out and tweeted racist views, I'd fire them. And I completely respect somebody saying, look, I'm a communist and your capitalist views are unacceptable. I don't want to be around you. I'm firing you. Absolutely, you should be able to discriminate against people for their beliefs, for their philosophy, for their ideas. And objectively, if those beliefs are objectively evil, as racism is, who the hell wants to have an evil person digging around files in the government? Who the hell wants to have a racist, an explicit, admitted racist, going through Social Security records, going through USAID or anything? Absolutely, this person should have been fired. And absolutely, there should be a standard. If you come to work for me, or if you come to work for Elon Musk, or if you come to work for Doge, certain things are abhorrent, certain things are acceptable. And I think it's really disgusting when the Vice President of the United States, defends a racist. I don't care that J.D. Vance's wife is Indian. The reality is that J.D. Vance can still support, encourage, and associate with and sanction racists in spite of his wife. I don't know what his relationship with his wife is. I don't really care. But J.D. Vance, I fear, I'm pretty sure, is on a daily basis associating with people who have a negative view of his wife because of her skin color. And the fact that he doesn't care says everything you need to know about J.D. Vance's character. It's despicable. I mean, when MAGA went after his wife, when MAGA made fun of him for having an Indian wife, did he defend her? Did he stand up for her? No. Not exactly a man. Power, political power, for J.D. Vance, much more important than standing up for his wife, standing up for whatever values he has. He's a coward. He's a power-lusting coward. And he's not a man of decency, and neither is Elon. I mean, this is incredibly disappointing of Elon Musk, but not surprising, given that how many times he has retweeted anti-Semitic tweets, Every single one of us should create their own cancel culture. People they refuse to associate with. People they would refuse to employ. People they'd refuse to befriend. People they'd refuse to shake hands with. Because every single one of us just have standards. The idea that I would employ somebody who writes normalize Indian hate or I was a racist before it was cool makes me feel sick in the stomach. Judge people. Don't be afraid of judgment. I don't know. It goes from bad to bad to worse to bad to worse to worse to worst. So the whole way in which these people think, because they have no principles, they have no positive ideas. Nikos talked about this yesterday. They have no thing that they're fighting for. So for them, whatever the left stands for, they stand for the opposite. Here's what a writer for the Free Press wrote about this. One of the worst things about peak woke years was progressives' insistence that not only should speech come with consequences, I think it should, but that these consequences should be maximal punitive, even when the speech is minor, I'm adding, and with no possibility of redemption. This led to an equal and opposite consensus among the MAGA folks that offensive internet posts should merit no consequences whatsoever, and perhaps should even be celebrated for triggering all the right people, which is to say, people on the left. That is, the thing that unifies the right, unifies MAGA, is not some positive set of values. The thing that unifies MAGA is hatred of the left, and being anti-left, and being the opposite of the left. They stand for nothing other than the negation of the opposite. All right, just a quick story, and we'll end with this, and then I'll go to your Super Chat questions. I think we've got quite a few. Yeah, quite a few, and we're doing quite well. On the money side, we're almost at the, we got about $100, $98 to make it to the second hour goal, which would be great. And maybe we're going to go, I'm pretty sure we're going to go into the third hour. So we're $350 short of the third hour goal, but we still got time. So, I believe in you guys. This one is in the probably unbelievably corrupt, completely visible to all, but unbelievably corrupt. So, Mayor Eric Adams was under federal indictment, prosecution, under indictment for basically bribery. He was accused of bribery, wire fraud, soliciting campaign contributions for foreign nationals, including receiving $100,000 worth of plane tickets and luxury hotel stays from people connected to the Turkish government. Adams was accused of corruption, out and out corruption, accepting bribes. He promised not to say anything about the Armenian genocide and the Turks that gave him money. Well, Donald Trump has told the Justice Department, they've done this already, they did this yesterday, they've ordered federal prosecutors to drop all charges against the mayor. Why, you might ask? Why are they dropping charges against Eric Adams? It sounds like he might have been, we won't know until we go to court, like he's innocent until proven guilty, but it sounds like he might be really corrupt, and shouldn't we prosecute corruption? Well, it turns out that a deal has been cut between Adams and Trump. They literally, in dropping the charges, the Justice Department says that because of these charges, Adams is unable to address illegal immigration and violent crime in New York. So basically, Adams went to Trump and said, I know your priority is illegal immigration and violent crime in New York, and I'm all on board. I'm willing to go after illegal immigrants and really ramp up fighting violent crime in New York. I'll do it. But, I need a favor. I'll do my job, but I need a favor from you. And, well, illegal immigration, That's a favor for you, but I need a favor in return. And the favor is drop the fraud charges against me. And they did. Swamp animals, anybody? Anybody seen any swamp animals recently? Drying the swamp? Swamp is gone? No. Swamp just gets fuller with more and more new swamp animals every time. The entire system is corrupt. It's corrupt. If you're being prosecuted by the Justice Department right now for something you've done, it just means you don't have the right connections. You don't know the right people. You haven't pulled the right levers. It's a pretty bleak statement about America. All right, that is the news for this February 11th, 2025. And we're at 39,002. So doing good. Thank you. Those of you who are not yet subscribers to the Yaron Brook Show, if you find any of this interesting, entertaining, educational, enlightening, stress-inducing, stress-reducing, I don't know, whatever. If you get value from it, please consider becoming a subscriber. We should see 39,000 going up. Liking the show, there's a like button over there. And of course, becoming a supporter of the show. And you can become a supporter of the show like Gail by doing a sticker. There's a $ at the bottom here if you're a YouTube live watcher. Or by asking a question, a super chat, which is great because that way you can actually dictate the topics that I talk about in the next segment of the show. So please consider doing that. For this show, we're still looking for about $350 of super chat questions. Or you can become a monthly supporter of the show, which I value incredibly because it's predictable, it's steady, it's constant. And you can do that by going to patreon.com and just searching Yaron Brook Show and making a monthly contribution there. Now, I know a lot of you are members of my channel on Patreon. There's like 100 people who are members of the channel on Patreon, but don't contribute anything. Free members. Consider doing like $2 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, something. Really, really appreciate it. Everything helps. And again, it's an expression of value for value. So please do that. Please do that and become a part of the show. Finally, I'll just add we have two sponsors. The Ayn Rand Institute is hosting a conference in Austin, Texas at the end of this month. Austin, Texas, at the end of February. And it's open. Anybody can sign up. You have to pay, but you can sign up. Please consider doing it. It's going to be a great conference. It's going to be a lot of amazing speakers. You're going to meet a lot of the ARU, Ayn Rand University faculty. You get experience them teaching. You'll really have an opportunity to dive deeply into the philosophy of objectivism at this conference with these speakers. It'll be great to have you there. Please consider signing up. You can find information about it at aynrand.org, AYNRAND.org/start here. aynrand.org/start here. And to sign up for the conference, that would be really, really amazing. And join us. Alex Epstein is also a sponsor of the show. You should sign up to his Substack for his talking points. You get a real, I think, added education on fossil fuels and energy. I mean, your knowledge of the issues around climate change and everything going on in environmentalism will increase exponentially. He is the most knowledgeable person I know on these topics. And he gives you easy points, easy to communicate, points about each one of them. So it makes you a better advocate for your ideas. Sign up, alexepstein.substack.com. All right, let us jump in to the questions. And I think we have a $100 question, so we'll start with that one first. Dave says, this one. What is your favorite cuisine, food? I don't know how to categorize it. I mean, my favorite food cuisine is what I call creative and eclectic. I like the kind of meals that you often get in 3-star Michelin restaurants or really, really good restaurants where it's not exactly belonging to any particular country or region. It's just food at its best. Food where the flavors are optimized, where the quality of the vegetables, the meat, everything is the best in the world. That's just unbelievably fun and interesting. Some of the best restaurants in the world, a place like Alinea in Chicago, or there are quite a few restaurants like this in Barcelona, whether they have 3-star Michelin or not. So I'm a big for. It's not even fusion, although you could argue, but it's some of it's. Some restaurants, they even have things like what they call molecular cuisine, which is where they take the food and make it look different than what it actually looks, and it becomes fun and entertaining, and it's show as well as food. And there are quite a few restaurants like that in the United States and in Europe. My favorite country for food is Spain. I'm not huge on Italian food only because I don't eat a lot of pasta. I really, really, really minimize the amount of pasta because I minimize the amount of carbs that I have. So I don't eat a lot of pasta. Chandler says, Yaron, watch the menu. It's got a horror aspect to it, which I don't like that. So if it was just making fun of foodies, it would be one thing. But the fact that it's got a horror disgust element to it makes it uninteresting for me. But look, I like anything from a good hummus at a cheap hummus place to the best food in the world in Spain or in France or in London. London's a great food place. Oh, here's one that's kind of unexpected. My favorite restaurants in London right now are restaurants, and some of my favorite in the world, are restaurants that serve West African cuisine. One has 2 Michelin stars, one has 1 Michelin star, and they're exceptional. Ikoyi and Koyo, I think it's Koyo, something like that. Just amazing restaurants. So West African cuisine, go figure. Elevated to fine dining. Thank you, Dave, $100. Really, really appreciate the support. Thank you. All right, John has been waiting patiently, asked these questions before I even got started for $50 each. Really, really appreciate it, John. John says, can you explain how wealth can still be created even when money is traded for spiritual value, and how it is still a win-win trade, even though you can't see or touch the value that you're left with? Examples, entertainers like pro athletes, comedians. Yeah, I use this example a lot in my talks. And that is the example I usually use when I'm talking to young people. The example I use is J.K. Rowling. Almost everybody young has read Harry Potter. And what I tell the audience is I've gotten a lot poorer financially because of Harry Potter. Because when my kids were young, I had to buy 2 copies of every book that came out when they came out in hardback copy. I then had to buy audio tapes because we would go on road trips and listen to the books again. That way I could also experience the Harry Potter books. And then on top of that, we'd go to see the movies and we'd go to the rides in Disneyland or wherever they were. And I figure I spent thousands of dollars on Harry Potter. So I'm poorer by thousands of dollars. And J.K. Rowling became a billionaire. Now, where was wealth created? Well, material wealth, was created in all kinds of ways. The books didn't exist before as a material product. The audio tape, the rides, the movie, those are all material things, and people made money off of them. And they are added material values that exist now, but the only reason they exist and the only reason they are valuable is because of something that's not material. And that is the immense spiritual value that you get from reading the books, that you get from watching your kids read the books, that you get from going to see the movie. Life at the end is, to a large extent, a mixture of spiritual and material values. And while we can't measure in terms of dollars the spiritual values, they dominate the material values. Like, what's the value of this iPhone? I often ask my audiences. Well, a big part of the value of this iPhone is not the material things I do with it. It's the spiritual benefit I get from it. Like listening to music. Like, I don't know, video conferencing with my kids and telling them a bedtime story. That's what makes this iPhone a value. At the end, all material values, maybe with the exception of food, have a spiritual side to them. And good food has a spiritual side to it as well. So the wealth is created in all the intermediate steps that convert J.K. Rowling's story, a spiritual thing, into an experience that I and my kids have, a spiritual thing. The wealth is created in all the intermediary steps in between. Right? The world is a better place because we're happier, because of the spiritual values. And it's also a better place because the publisher made money. That's wealth creation. The bookseller made money. The editor of the book made money. Everybody in the process, including J.K. Rowling, everybody made money. They're better off materially. I'm better off spiritually. That's wealth creation. Troy just came in with 500 Australian dollars. Thank you, Troy. Really, really appreciate it. He says it's for the CEO Lives Matter show you're on. I appreciate that. Yeah, that was a good show. That was a good show with Nikos. So yesterday, thank you. If you guys have not listened to that show, please listen to it. It is an incredibly important, crucial, I think, point. And we objectivists are pretty much the only people who really, really, really stand up for them. Now, I did get I guess, a comment from a prominent libertarian, Sheldon Richmond, who said that Nikos and I didn't do proper justice to the libertarians because there were some libertarians, both at Cato and at Reason and Sheldon himself, who had indeed written positive things about, or did indeed condemn the killing, and I assume said something positive about the CEOs. I'll check that out. I'll look for those articles, Sheldon, if you're listening, Sheldon. And but anyway, far too few voices out there in the culture actually stood up for the productive, for the CEOs, for what they do and for their value. Thank you, Troy, for supporting that, supporting those kind of shows. I really appreciate that. And that gets us very, very close to our third hour goal. So only $34 to go. John, what is necessary to grasp and embrace that we can be what is necessary to grasp and embrace that we can be a healthy service economy as opposed to a manufacturing economy full of factories? Thanks, Yaron. I'm giving a little extra because I missed your show with Nikos, and he's one of my favorites. Yeah, and the topic was great, as Troy expressed through his significant contribution here. What needs to be grasped is that what matters is not the material form that the value takes, but the value that it adds to human life, the value it represents for human beings. So what people have to grasp and ultimately embrace is that, and people know this when you actually point it out to them, that somebody writing software is creating many times more value than somebody who is doing some manual job, pulling a lever. That somebody doing the engineering work, which is service, is much more adding value than, again, the actual raw manufacturing. I'll give you one great example. The United States does not manufacture a lot of chips, microchips. But what did the United States dominate in? It dominates the design of chips. Now, where is greater value created? In the design and the manufacturing. In the design. Now, manufacturing is hard. It's very complicated. It's very expensive. It's very difficult. And TSMC does the best job in the world in manufacturing chips. And yet the greater value added is what NVIDIA does. NVIDIA doesn't manufacture chips. It designs them. And then it asks TSMC to manufacture it for them. What would you rather have, the designer or the manufacturer? Clearly the designer. So the US economy has moved from a manufacturing economy to a higher value added economy, which is a service economy. We add more values at that level. And maybe in order to grasp what this means, you need to grasp the value of J.K. Rowling. You need to grasp the value of the mind over the physical stuff. This is the fallacy about we need to make our own steel. No, we don't. No, we don't. Manufacturing jobs are not that important. What's important is value creation. And values can take lots of different forms. They can take the form of writing a book, like J.K. Rowling. They can take the form of designing chips. They can take lots of different forms. And the more the mind is involved, the more the work is the work of the mind, the more value is being created. The more important the work is. The more difficult, in a sense, and rarer the work is, the skill set is. That's what we should be emphasizing. Jobs of the mind. I hope that helps, John. Bogdan says, my wife, who is a fan of your show, insists on asking you if, as EU passport holders, it's time for us to leave Canada for Europe. I don't think so. I mean, you're probably going to get a conservative prime minister in Canada in the next election. He seems to be pretty good. I would at least give him a shot. Europe is in a mess. It's stagnating. I mean, where would you go in Europe? I don't know where you would go exactly. There's a socialist government in Spain, even though economically they're doing quite well, but there's socialist government, so they won't do well for very long. Germany is a basket case. UK is a basket case. I mean, I guess you could go to Scandinavia, but Italy is Italy. Switzerland's not bad. Switzerland's a good place to go. But I'm not sure EU passport helps you with Switzerland. You have to get a Swiss passport. So I don't see why Europe. I mean, I would stay in Canada and let the Conservatives give them a shot at improving things, and then see what happens. And then maybe consider where to go. And then the question is, where do you go in Europe? I wouldn't go to Belgium. And, I guess you could go to Poland, but Poland's growing and got decent policies. But I don't know. I don't want to live in Poland. Do you want to live in Poland? I guess you're coming from Canada. Poland's not as cold as Canada, so maybe that's... And Scandinavia's not bad. Norway has a wealth tax, so don't go there. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, what's better? Hungary is a dump. The last place you want to go is Hungary. It's got a lousy economy, high inflation, high unemployment. Its economy is completely subsidized by the EU. It doesn't have economic freedom. It doesn't have freedom of speech. It doesn't have freedom of the media. Hungary is the worst place in Europe. It has Christian values. Yay! No, don't go to Hungary. Indeed, those of you who live in Hungary should leave. All right, let's see. I'd say the Czech Republic. If you were looking for an Eastern European country, Prague. Prague is a great place to go to. Prague is a great place to go to. Although it has its own challenges. Michael, we came out of a dark ages. I don't see why we can't come out of a mixed economy. No, neither can I. We can come out of a mixed economy, but it doesn't mean we will. Doesn't mean we will. It's a possibility, but no guarantees. The dynamics are very different. By the way, we came out of a dark ages by having a renaissance, and I don't see an artistic renaissance right now. Michael says, Kanye West is back to his anti-Semitic insanity. Yeah, I saw that. People are writing it off as mental illness. Why are mentally ill people always malevolent? Why are they never happy and harmless and just in their own world? I think some mentally ill people are harmless and in their own world. But a lot of it manifests itself in malevolence, because I think a lot of the mental illness is associated with, not caused by, but associated with bad ideas, a horrible view of the world around us, a certain level of paranoia. It's affiliated with negative, the mental illness, look, when you're not competent to deal with the world, and mental illness makes you incompetent to deal with the world, then you're going to be dominated by fear, anxiety, hatred. So mental illness makes you incompetent. Incompetence will make you fear, hate, anxious, all these malevolent negative emotions. It's directly causal. It's necessary. Unless you're so mentally distressed that you cut off from the world. There are people like that. Andrew, stipulating that Trump's claim that the U.S. subsidizes other countries is stupid and false. Isn't it true that we're giving money, providing benefits to other nations self-sacrificially? Are we in fact being taken advantage of? Well, not through trade, no. But yes, through foreign aid, USAID and other forms of foreign aid. Yeah, I'm very much opposed to foreign aid. I think it should be zeroed out. I think the only way to do it properly is through Congress. I don't actually believe USAID will zero it out. I mean, DOGE will zero it out. We'll see. But yeah, U.S. foreign aid should be eliminated, except in cases where there is a direct military benefit. So, I don't know, aid to Ukraine, maybe some aid to Israel in some circumstances, but everything else should be zero. Nada. All right. What am I looking for? Let's see. That was Andrew. All right. Remind you, $34 to go to get to our goal. All right, esoteric dichotomy. Hey, Yaron, should the U.S. stop minting all coins? Yeah, probably. I don't use coins anymore. I don't know where I put them. They disappear on me. It's a waste of time. But it is a big priority? No. I mean, it's just stop it. Yeah, but I don't think it's a priority. Michael, is you versus you the only competition that matters? Well, I mean, it depends. If you're playing basketball, then you want to beat the opponent. So it really depends on the context in which you're in. But mostly in life, you want to maximize your own ability. You want to maximize you. You want to live up to your potential. And that's what makes most important for your self-esteem and for your happiness. But there are circumstances in life where certainly beating the other side, war, sports, and to some extent business, is important. And you have to think about it, and you have to plan for it, and you have to consider it. Esoteric dichotomy. Silly as it is, wouldn't Greenland and Denmark benefit if the U.S. bought Greenland and compensated the natives each with annual dividends or something? Yeah, sure. I'm all for, buying Greenland. I just don't see it as the priority. I'm not worried about the citizens of Greenland. Yeah, they'd be better off being citizens of America. There's no question. I'm worried about America. Why are we diverting resources and thinking and money and effort and thought and on that when there are real problems? We got to cut government spending, not in the way that Doge is doing, but in a thorough, systematic, considered way. We've got to cut and restructure entitlements now. So yeah, I mean, Greenland, great. Welcome it to America. I'm all for it. I have no problem with it. Philosophy at Work is sending a message to Americans. Roses are red, bacon is red, rhyming is hard, bacon. Go figure. Andrew, Europe wants to be the home of AI innovation. Only a single action will make it so. Decontrol, the freest country will win. Yes. The one thing that gives France a certain advantage when it comes to AI is that France has a lot of nuclear power. And so you could imagine France becoming a place, and they're building more. You can imagine France becoming a place where companies want to build data centers. They want to build big server farms because they can get cheap, reliable, consistent energy. Megan Ribbons, she writes, at Philosophy at Work, red roses are fine, and I love you this sort of rhymes. Thus it is true. That is reaching. That is, all right. Kim, how did Greece go from Aristotle to communism and other such irrationality? Well, I mean, it basically was occupied by the Romans, became Christian Orthodox, abandoned Aristotle in the name of Christianity. And yeah, the path from Christianity to communism is not that difficult. Many early Christians, really well into the 17th century, were communists. Basically, they created communes. I mean, think about monks. What is a monastery if not a little communist community with no sex or no authorized sex? So once they became Christian, it was really just a matter of time before they also embraced communism. Andrew was glad to hear that when Jalen Hurts, Eagles quarterback, talked about his main purpose, he didn't say to inspire anyone or advance a social cause. He said to win. Yeah, that's good. That's good. I didn't watch the game, but this is that is quite a rivalry now between Philadelphia and Kansas City. The second Super Bowl in 3 years, and each one is 1-1. So that's cool. And two relatively young quarterbacks that are still going to go at it for years to come. Jeremy says, for the finance talk, thank you, Jeremy. Appreciate it. James says, Netanyahu is a pathetic loser. Israel must get rid of him. I've been saying that for 20 plus years. Nobody listens to me. Not on that. Monkanu. Rand on hostility. Quote, chronic need to justify himself by demonstrating their evil, by seeking it, by hunting for it. Thoughts on a man's obsession over the smallest irrational behavior of those around him. Yeah, I mean, I think it's an other focus rather than a focus on self. It is an obsession with the negative, with the evil, with the bad. And it can be all consuming for some people, And yeah, I think that it is, it results in and is a form of hostility, but it's a form of low self-esteem when your focus is on other people and all the bad things and all the wrong things that they are doing. I think that's what I have to say. One kind of, maybe, I'm sure there's more to say about it. Rue Downs. Turn on the subscriber-only live chat. Go to live control room, edit live chat. Who can send a message, subscribers? How long 1 minute save? I mean, I'm going to do that sometimes, but I don't want to do it all the time because the reality is the more chats they are, the more the algorithm likes it. A lot of the people chatting here are not subscribers. A lot of the people chatting here are supporters of the show in spite of not being subscribers, or not being, yeah. Oh, subscribe only chat. I thought members only chat. Oh, that's a good idea. Subscribe only for live chat. That's a good idea. I'll do that. Sorry, I misunderstood. That's a great idea. If you're not a subscriber, why? You're here. Why not become a subscriber? It costs you nothing. Engagement matters. Subscribers, yeah, I understood. I agree. With manufacturing versus service jobs, many feel they can't get high-paid service jobs. Some don't have the mind for mental labor. Solution, they'll have to take lower-paying jobs. That's just the reality. If you don't have the mind for better service jobs, then you'll have to pay lower-paying. There's no guarantee in life for a high-paying job. There's no guarantee in life you'll always make the same amount of money or more. All there is, you know, you do your best and you get compensated based on how productive you are. Now, the reality is the technology makes even people who are not very smart much more productive than they would otherwise be. So service jobs increase in productivity. So, for example, there is you can get a lot of money these days, make a lot of money servicing, what do you call it? Server farms. You don't have to understand programming. You don't have to be a computer science major. Companies will train you to do this job. It doesn't require an enormous IQ. You know, there's certain standards, there's certain procedures you have to follow, and they're paying six figures to be basically a maintenance guy at a server farm. So there are lots of service jobs that do pay a lot, that are not massively mind requiring, but because of technology, because of all the new technologies that are coming out, they're very productive and therefore you get paid a lot of money for. But the fundamental you have to realize is, you know, your standard of living is going to go up if you allow the United States, if you're in a free market. That's all you have to think about. In a free market. But a free market does not guarantee you your job. It does not guarantee you an income. But overall, your life will be dramatically better. That's what you have to convince people of. And I think it's unbelievably un-American to say, but where am I going to find a job? But they won't pay me as much. That's the opposite of what this country was founded on. All right, guys, $14 to make our goal. A sticker. Just do a sticker for $14, somebody. Jason says, as long as we have fiat currency, I think we should print higher denominations as coins like Europe that last longer. This saves on printing and encourages you to use cards, else have heavy wallet. Well, I mean, I don't understand not using cards no matter what. We're moving towards, I mean, it's not even a card anymore, right? You just use your phone. I mean, how many transactions today do you just use your phone for? So I don't think you need to move towards more coins, at all. So just get everybody a phone. Just teach everybody how to use their phone as a wallet. All right, this is the last question, unless somebody comes in with the $14. Esoteric dichotomy. Do you use ChatGPT AI in your daily use? I use it for brainstorming and writing. It's also entertaining for hypotheticals, alt history, and fiction. I don't as much as I should. I still do all my research myself, but I guess when I Google topics, I mean, ChatGPT now or Google AI is the first thing that comes up in any search that you do. And I'm reading more and more of that, and it often provides me with the answer to what I'm actually seeking. I need to integrate it more into my daily use. It's definitely something I want to do, and integrate it more into my daily use. All right, Greg Lewis did $15 to get us over the threshold. Thank you, Greg. And then Yigal Arbel is 5th super chat ever. Asks a question: should objectivists go into politics? I'm thinking Millet surprising success, and if nothing else, lots of advertising. It's very expensive advertising. Running a political campaign costs a lot of money. A lot of the advertising Millet did for the ideas he did as a radio talk show host. I encourage you to do that. So I think it's too soon. I think it's too expensive still. And I think you'd get a lot less exposure than you should, because it's too soon, because the culture is so antagonistic. But look, if you're interested in politics, if objectivists find it intriguing and they want to try it and they want to experiment with it, all the power to you. I don't think objectivism is not a centrally run, centrally controlled movement. It's one where people should do what they think will further their interests and their cause. So I think it's too soon, but I might be wrong. And, the other thing about Millet is he's a freak. He's crazy. He's nuts. He acts crazy and nuts. I don't know if an objectivist should or could do that. It would be interesting to see somebody try. All right, guys. Thank you to all the super chatters. Thank you particularly to Troy, but also to John, who did $100, and Dave, who did $100. Really, really appreciate it. But really, thanks to everybody. Michael, who did a bunch of questions and always does. Thanks to all of you for supporting the show. Don't forget to become a Patreon supporter. That would be great. And I will see you all basically same time, same place tomorrow. It'll be a shorter show tomorrow because I have to teach a class in the afternoon. But rest of the week there will be shows. And I will see you all then. Bye, everybody.